October 1946. Cotton Club Annex, Harlem. Vito Genovese sent 20 men to erase one name and take one neighborhood. By sunrise, 18 were broken, 2 were sent back alive. This wasn't revenge or ego, but cold, territorial calculus. One man stood against an empire and didn't blink. So how did Bumpy Johnson survive a death order meant to end Harlem to understand that outcome? The story must return to where it truly began. Harlem breathes its last before dawn. The neon signs flicker and fade like tired men who know their shift is ending, casting pale orange ghosts across wet pavement that still holds the shape of yesterday's rain. Inside the Cotton Club Annex, a jukebox in the back room hums Duke Ellington through speakers wrapped in dust and memory, the sound thin and distant, like something that belongs to a world already gone. The smell is what you notice first if you have been in places like this before. Stale cigarette smoke that has soaked into the velvet curtains over years of slow nights, mixed with the sharp bite of pine soap on hardwood floors still damp from the last mop. The kind of clean that never quite reaches the corners where the real business gets done. 3 black sedans pull up outside at the same moment, their engines cutting in unison like a rehearsed execution. 20 men step onto the street without a word between them. They carry gasoline in unmarked cans, the kind that burns hot enough to melt flesh off bone in under a minute. Iron bars wrapped in cloth to muffle the sound when kneecaps shatter and rib cages cave inward. Pistols tucked into coat pockets, chambered and ready to put holes through skulls if the night requires that kind of finish. The lead man, Vincent Calabresi, spits on the sidewalk and turns to the others. 15 minutes. You break every finger on anyone who fights back. You crack their knees so they remember how to crawl. And if Johnson himself shows his face, you bring him to me alive so I can take my time cutting pieces off until he begs for the bullet. Anthony Strahl steps forward, rolling his shoulders like a boxer before the bell. What about the staff, the bartenders, the kitchen? Help. Break their hands so they cannot pour drinks for a month. That is the message. This place does not open again unless Genovese says it opens. Calabresi's voice carries no emotion, just the flat certainty of a man who has delivered these instructions before and watched them carried out exactly as ordered. Vito Genovese built his empire on the principle that men who forget their place need to be reminded with broken bones and burnt buildings. 3 weeks ago, he sat in his office watching his accountant explain why the Harlem collections were down 18% for the second month running. It is Bumpy Johnson. He is expanding his policy operations into territories we considered ours by agreement. Last week, one of our collectors tried to make his rounds on 145th Street. They found him in an alley with both kneecaps shattered and a note pinned to his chest that said, "We do not collect in Harlem anymore." Genovese's jaw tightened. How many men does Johnson have who can do that kind of work? Maybe 30 who will put hands on people. But it is not about numbers. It is about the fact that he moved into our territory without asking permission. And now every 2-bit hustler from the Bronx to Brooklyn is watching to see if you let it slide. I do not let things slide. I make examples. Get Anthony Strahl in here. Tell him I need 20 men who understand the difference between sending a message and starting a war. We burn the Cotton Club, break everyone inside, and make it clear that Harlem operates by my permission, or it does not operate at all. Anthony Strahl earned his reputation in Brooklyn 2 years ago by setting fire to 3 buildings and breaking the legs of anyone who tried to run out. The screaming could be heard 6 blocks away. In the Bronx last spring, he walked into a policy bank with 4 men and walked out with $5,000 after using a blowtorch on the safe and a baseball bat on the manager's spine until it cracked in 3 places. Illinois Gordon knows which police captains take envelopes and which ones need softer persuasion in the form of photographs that show them in hotel rooms with women who are not their wives. He knows which dock workers move shipments after midnight and which ones will need their hands broken if they start asking questions. He is the map that shows where every vein of money flows through Harlem. Roberto Marino pours drinks and listens to conversations that were never meant for his ears. 2 years ago, he owed $800 to loan sharks who cornered him in an alley with baseball bats and knives. The largest one, Paulie, grabbed Roberto's hand and spread the fingers across a garbage can lid. "We are going to start with the pinky on your right hand. We break it clean. You scream. We move to the next finger. By the time we get to your thumb, maybe you remember where you put our money, and if you still do not remember, we start on the left hand, then your kneecaps, and you spend the rest of your life walking like a cripple." Bumpy Johnson stepped into the light with Illinois Gordon behind him. He handed an envelope to Paulie. "Ha, 800. Count it if you want, but you are done here. This man works for me now." When Paulie finished counting, Bumpy's voice dropped to a register that made the temperature feel colder. "You put your hands on him after tonight, and I will find you in whatever hole you crawl into, and I will break every bone in both your arms before I cut your throat and leave you in a dumpster where your own mother will not recognize what is left." Harlem is growing in the kind of power that makes other boroughs nervous. The numbers racket that used to send tribute downtown every week now keeps that money in Harlem. The protection money that used to flow to Little Italy now stays north of 110th Street. Funding an operation that has its own enforcers and its own rules. Genovese sees this expansion as a violation of the natural order. It is about maintaining the hierarchy that keeps everyone in their proper place, and about demonstrating to every other ambitious operator in 5 boroughs that challenging Vito Genovese results in fire and broken bones, and the kind of pain that lasts long after the bruises fade. The room smells like old Barolo and cigar smoke that has settled into the wallpaper over decades of conversations that ended with someone getting hurt badly enough to remember the lesson. Genovese sits at the head of the table with his hands folded, waiting for everyone else to catch up. You drive to Harlem. You walk into the Cotton Club. You pour gasoline on everything that burns. You break the knees of anyone who tries to stop you. You crack skulls until people cannot stand up anymore. You find Bumpy Johnson if he is there, and you bring him to me with all his fingers broken so I can ask him questions while he bleeds. And if he is not there, you leave enough damage that he understands what happens when someone forgets who runs this city. Anthony Strahl leans forward. "What about collateral staff? Customers? People who just work there?" Genovese's eyes do not blink. Break their hands. All of them. Everyone who works there needs to remember this night every time they try to button a shirt or tie their shoes. The message is simple. This place does not open again unless I say it opens. Vincent Calabresi speaks up. "How much time do we have inside before the police show up?" 40 minutes if you are loud, an hour if you are quiet about it. I have 3 captains who will make sure the patrol cars take the long route tonight. But you do not need an hour. You need 15 minutes to make the point, and another 15 to make sure it sticks. Genovese stands, signaling the meeting is over. One more thing. If any of you come back without finishing the job, I will assume you got scared or you got bought, and either way, you will wish you had stayed in Harlem and taken your chances with Johnson's people instead of coming back here to explain why you failed. Roberto stands behind the bar after they leave, calculating the distance to the nearest phone booth and whether he has enough time to make the call before anyone notices. In the phone booth with rain dripping through a crack in the roof, he drops a nickel into the slot and dials the number Illinois Gordon gave him 2 years ago. The phone rings twice before Illinois picks up. No greeting, just silence waiting to be filled. It is Roberto. 20 men just left a meeting at Genovese's place. They are coming to the Cotton Club right now. Maybe 30 minutes away. Maybe less. They have gasoline, iron bars, guns. Orders are to burn it down and break everyone inside. Kneecaps, hands, skulls, everything. They are supposed to bring Bumpy to Genovese alive with all his fingers broken if they find him there. Illinois Gordon's voice comes back calm. How many in each car? 3 cars, maybe 6 or 7 men per car. Anthony Strahl is leading 1 car. Vincent Calabrese is leading another. Good. You did the right thing calling this in. Now get out of there before anyone notices you left. Go home, lock your doors, and do not answer your phone until tomorrow afternoon. Whatever happens tonight. You were not part of it. Illinois Gordon walks 6 blocks through Harlem streets to where Bumpy Johnson is playing chess in the back office of a building that officially sells furniture, but actually moves money and manages territory disputes. He listens to the entire report without interrupting. When Illinois finishes, Bumpy moves a bishop across the board. How long before they get here? 20 minutes, maybe 25 if they hit traffic on the bridge. Bumpy's fingers drum on the armrest in a rhythm that Illinois recognizes as strategy being calculated. Call everyone we have who can be at the Cotton Club in 15 minutes. I want 30 men inside before those cars pull up. Tell them to bring bats, chains, brass knuckles, anything that makes noise and breaks bones but does not bring federal attention. No guns unless Strahl's people pull first, and even then, aim for legs and shoulders. Nothing that puts bodies in the ground. Illinois starts dialing, speaking in coded language to men who have been waiting for exactly this kind of call. Bumpy walks to the window, looking out at Harlem streets that belong to him because he built power by being smarter and harder than anyone else who wanted the same territory. He turns back with instructions that will determine how the next hour unfolds. I want the front door unlocked and the lights on normal. Music playing. Bartender behind the bar. Everything looking like a regular slow Tuesday night. When they walk in, I want them to think they caught us sleeping. Let them get all the way inside. Let them spread out. Let them start reaching for their gasoline cans. And then we lock every door, kill every light, and teach them the difference between making threats and surviving the follow-through. What about you? Where will you be? Bumpy's smile contains no warmth. I will be right there in the middle of it. Because when Strahl goes back to Genovese, assuming he can still walk, I want him to describe exactly what it looks like when someone breaks his jaw with a pipe. I want him to remember the sound his kneecap made when it shattered. I want Genovese to hear all of that and understand that sending 20 men was not enough, and that sending 40 will not be enough either. Men start moving through Harlem streets toward the Cotton Club, carrying weapons that will turn a nightclub into an abattoir. They move in ones and twos,